When my son informed me that I wouldn't be invited to his home for Christmas, I forced a smile, slid into my car, and placed a single call. By the first days of January, their mortgage had been canceled. That was merely the opening step of my design. Balance had to return, and pride required consequence. You cannot imagine what I chose to do next. Before moving on, please hit subscribe and share in the comments where you're listening from. I could roast my famous holiday turkey this year, I offered, sinking into Michael's leather sofa, the one with the sage seasoning your mother adored. Remember how she always said it outshined her grandmother's? The words hovered in the warmth between us, blending with the fragrance of Isabella's pricey vanilla candles. Michael shifted close by, the shine of his wedding band catching the glow from their 12-foot tree. His frame altered, shoulders curling inward like he prepared for a strike. Dad, sadly, you're not going to be welcome here for Christmas. The sentence struck me with the weight of a blow. I blinked, convinced I had misheard. What are you saying? Why wouldn't I be welcome? Michael avoided my stare, eyes locked on the marble coffee table, the very one I'd helped him choose last spring when Isabella dismissed their older pieces as lacking style. Isabella's parents are visiting, and they'd rather you not be present. My fingers went numb. They'd rather. It's just simpler this way, Dad. You know her family's ideas about traditions. They follow their own rituals. His voice shrank with each phrase, as though he was folding inside. I scanned the room, the silk drapes I had purchased after Isabella complained of privacy, the hardwood I'd funded with a second mortgage, the crown molding that maxed my credit line. Every surface in that house carried my mark, my sacrifices, my devotion to my child. Their way, I echoed slowly. And what way is that, Michael? He flinched. Dad, don't make this harder. Through the arch, I noticed Isabella's shiny KitchenAid, the professional model she swore was necessary for her holiday baking hobby that fizzled in 3 weeks. $2,000 of my money, likely used twice since October. Where am I supposed to spend Christmas then? I asked, my tone softer than intended. Michael's face fell. Maybe you could. I don't know. Go see Aunt Rosa, or we can do something the weekend after. The weekend after, as though Christmas could be postponed like a casual appointment. I rose, my knees aching from 8 years of carrying this load alone. I understand, Dad. Wait. But I was already moving toward the door, past family portraits where my image grew smaller with each frame, past the closet stuffed with Isabella's endless coats. My hand closed around the doorknob, firm and icy under my skin. Son, I said without turning, tell Isabella's parents. Feliz Navidad. December air slapped my face as I strode toward my truck. Behind me, Michael called once. Then came the gentle latch of the door. Final. Complete. I sat behind the wheel a moment, engine silent, watching lights flicker from windows of homes I'd never be welcome in. My phone vibrated, likely Michael hoping to soothe with hollow words. I let it ring. Instead, I twisted the key and drove into the night, abandoning the warm glow of the home I had paid for but never belonged to. The heater droned against the bitter cold as I traveled familiar roads back toward my own place. South Hills stretched wide, every corner storing memories of the man I had been, the man who thought family meant all, who would hand over his last dime for his son's smile. That man had been a fool. At the red light on 29th and Grand, I paused, watching a young father stack wrapped gifts into his SUV. His children pressed eager faces to the glass, breath clouding it in joy. Once, that had been Michael and me. Before Isabella, before I became reduced to a bank account with inconvenient feelings, numbers rattled through my head like a broken slot machine. $2,800 a month for 5 years. My calculator had given up trying to make sense of it last spring when I finally totaled everything. $140,000. More cash than Maria and I had put aside for our whole retirement. Gone. Just gone. I shoved the accelerator a little harder than needed as the light turned green. The truck answered with a growl that matched how I felt. 5th Street. That was the place where I'd refinanced our home, our house, Maria's and mine, to cover their down payment. The loan officer had stared at me with concern I hadn't registered at the time. Mr. Flores, are you sure about this? You're risking a lot for someone else's venture. Someone else's venture? Not my son's future, not my family's safety. Someone else's venture. Lincoln Street, The bank where I took a second mortgage when Michael lost his job 2 years earlier. Just temporary, Dad. Just until I get back on my feet. Isabella had been behind him, a $700 purse hanging from her shoulder, nodding in sympathy while silently figuring how much my desperation was worth. Nothing. As it turned out, my desperation was worth nothing to them. I pulled into my driveway, the one with cracked concrete I couldn't afford to repair because every spare dollar vanished into their flawless suburban dream. The porch light flickered, another fix I kept postponing. Inside, the house felt empty without Maria's laughter, without the warmth of family gatherings that would never come again. My phone rang as I fumbled with my keys, the shrill chime echoing off the hollow walls. Isabella's name lit the screen, probably calling to explain why I wasn't suitable for her parents' delicate sensibilities. Perfect timing. I'd been waiting 5 years to have this talk. I picked up on the fourth ring, letting her wait long enough to wonder if I'd answer at all. Dennis. Isabella's voice oozed fake sweetness, the same tone she used when asking me to cover their water bill or property taxes. I heard about the little misunderstanding with Michael. Misunderstanding? I leaned against the kitchen counter, still in my coat. I don't think there's any misunderstanding, Isabella. You made your stance abundantly clear. Look, I know this sounds harsh, but you must understand my parents' point of view. They're very traditional people. They expect a certain atmosphere during the holidays. A certain atmosphere, I repeated. And what atmosphere is that? A pause. I could hear shopping bags rustling in the background. Probably spending money that should have gone to their mortgage. Money that apparently was my responsibility. Well, they're not used to your kind of cooking. All that spicy Mexican food and loud music. And frankly, Dennis, they're cultured people. They expect conversations about current events, literature, art, you know. The words landed harder than a physical blow. 8 years of biting my tongue, swallowing insults for Michael's sake, pretending not to notice the way she glanced at me like I was some hired help. My kind of cooking? My voice remained steady, controlled. You mean the food you ate every Sunday for 3 years when money was tight? The tamales you said reminded you of your grandmother? That was different. We were grateful then, but now with my parents. Now with your parents, you can't have the Mexican peasant embarrassing you at your fancy dinner table. The false sweetness evaporated. Don't be dramatic, Dennis. This isn't about race. It's about class. My father graduated summa cum laude from Washington State. My mother speaks 4 languages. They summer in the Hamptons. What exactly would you add to dinner conversation? Stories about laying tile? Heat swelled in my chest, but I kept my tone even. I built a business from nothing after your husband's grandfather died. I've employed over 50 people. I've paid more in taxes than your father made in his best year. Money isn't everything, Dennis. Breeding matters. Education matters. And frankly, Maria knew her place better than you know yours. The line went dead silent. She had crossed it. A line I hadn't known existed until she stomped across it in her designer heels. What did you say about my wife? I'm just saying she knew how to blend in better. She didn't make waves. She understood that some spaces weren't meant for her. My hand gripped the phone until my knuckles blanched. Maria had more class in her little finger than your whole bloodline will ever possess. Oh, please. She was a house cleaner who got lucky. At least she had the sense to keep quiet about it. Isabella. My voice dropped into something unfamiliar. Listen to me very carefully. This conversation is over. I repeated. The call is finished, and there will be no more discussion. We're done pretending to be a family. You can't just... We're done, I repeated and ended the call. I carefully placed the phone on the counter, my hands steady in a way I hadn't felt in years. Around me, the kitchen seemed altered, smaller yet somehow clearer, as if a heavy weight had lifted from the air itself. I moved to my desk in the corner and pulled out the manila folder I'd been avoiding for months. Bank statements, mortgage documents, 5 years of automatic withdrawals that had drained me while they lived like royalty. Time to stop the bleeding. Chapter 4. The first action. Canceling the mortgage. The papers were spread across the kitchen table like evidence at a crime scene. 5 years of statements, each showing the same automated payment, $2,800 on the 15th of every month, vanishing from my account into theirs, a trail of my own foolishness. I grabbed my calculator and began tallying. First year, $33,600. Second year, another $33,600. By the third year, I had stopped buying myself any new clothes. Year 4, I shopped only at discount grocery stores. This fifth year, I had subsisted on peanut butter sandwiches for lunch just to make ends meet. $143,400. Not counting the down payment, not counting the times I had covered utilities when Isabella's shopping spree spiraled. Not counting the new roof, landscaping, or furniture necessary for their lifestyle. I sank into my chair, staring at the figures until they blurred. Maria's life insurance, my retirement funds, the college savings we'd established for grandchildren I apparently would never meet, gone. All poured into a home where I wouldn't be welcome for Christmas. I reached for my phone, scrolling through contacts until I located my bank's number. The automated menu offered English or Spanish. How thoughtful, accommodating people like me. Customer service, this is Jennifer. How may I assist you? I need to cancel an automatic transfer, I said, my voice steadier than it had been in ages. Certainly, sir. I'll need your account number and verification details. I rattled off the numbers, watching her type. Professional, efficient, no judgment about a 62-year-old man canceling payments to what was likely his son's mortgage. I see the transfer you mean, Mr. Flores. $2,800 monthly to Wells Fargo, account ending 7043. How long has this transfer been active? 5 years. The words tasted bitter. And you want to cancel it immediately? I glanced around the kitchen at outdated appliances I couldn't afford to replace, walls that needed painting, leaky windows, money I had spent on someone else's castle. Effective immediately, I confirmed. Done. The transfer is canceled. Anything else I can help you with? No, I said, amazed at how good it felt. No, that's everything. I hung up and sat in the quiet of my house. Outside, December darkness draped over Spokane. Christmas lights flickered in windows where families gathered without judgment, without conditions, unashamed of themselves. For the first time in 5 years, next month's budget would balance. For the first time since Maria passed, I could afford to fix the porch light, buy proper groceries, maybe even take a vacation. I collected the bank statements, mortgage documents, all the proof of my generosity. I walked to the fireplace, struck a match, and watched 5 years of self-sacrifice turn to ash. The warmth hit my face, more comforting than anything I'd felt in years. My phone buzzed, probably Michael wanting to apologize, or Isabella needing money for something trivial like new throw pillows. I ignored it. Instead, I poured a glass of the good whiskey I had been saving for an occasion that never arrived. Tonight felt enough. I raised my glass to the empty room, to Maria's photo on the mantel, to the man I had been and the man I was becoming. Merry Christmas to me, I said, and meant it. Chapter 5. Isabella's Provocation. The next morning arrived crisp, clear, sunlight streaming through the kitchen windows as I sipped my second coffee. For the first time in years, I wasn't calculating how much would vanish from my account in 3 days. Freedom tasted richer than the Colombian blend I'd finally allowed myself. At exactly 10:47 a.m., my phone rang. Isabella's name glared on the screen like a warning. Dennis. Her voice carried that familiar impatience, barely masked. I need you to pick up my parents from Spokane Airport. Their flight from Portland lands at 2. I set down my mug, watching the steam curl to the ceiling. Isabella, did you forget our conversation yesterday? Whatever that was about, we need to focus on practical matters. My parents need a ride, and you're the only one with time. The audacity of it was staggering. Less than a full day after declaring I wasn't worthy of joining her family for Christmas dinner, she expected me to become their personal chauffeur. And you're asking me because that's what family does, Dennis, she said, her voice sharp with irritation. They help one another. But let's be honest, you're not my rival. You're far too weak for that. So just get in your truck and pick them up. There it was, the final insult disguised as a command. Which airline? I asked softly. Alaska Air, Flight 447. Baggage claim, Carousel 3. And Dennis, make sure someone can handle their luggage properly. Don't embarrass us. I could hear her fingernails tapping against something hard. Probably her granite countertop, the one I had paid for when she insisted laminate wasn't acceptable for her dinner parties. Of course, I said. I'll take care of it. Good, and wear something decent. Perhaps that blue shirt you wore to Michael's graduation. They notice things like that. The line went dead. Not a thank you. I leaned back in my chair, staring at my phone's blank screen. 2, Flight 447, baggage claim, Carousel 3. I checked the wall clock above my sink, 10:52 a.m. Plenty of time. I poured another cup of coffee, added an extra spoon of sugar, and opened yesterday's newspaper to the crossword I hadn't finished. 7 across. Delayed gratification. 12 letters. The answer would come eventually. Chapter 6. The Airport Trap. By 2:15 p.m. I was nestled in my favorite armchair with a fresh cup of Earl Grey and the Sunday Spokane Review. Yesterday's crossword lay complete on the coffee table. Delayed gratification had been postponement. My phone buzzed on the wooden surface. Isabella again. I let it ring. The December sun slanted through the windows, warming the room where I'd spent so many lonely evenings tallying the cost of my generosity. Today, the silence felt earned. 2:47 p.m. Another buzz. I glimpsed the preview. Dad, where are you? My parents are. I turned the phone face down and returned to the sports section. Seahawks lost again. Some things never changed. By 3:30, 6 more buzzes. I'd finished the paper, brewed a second pot of tea, and organized the kitchen junk drawer. Incredible what one could achieve when not rushing to serve people who treated you as a bellhop. The 7th call, 3:45. This time, a no number, likely her parents borrowing a phone at the airport. I let it ring too. Outside, a neighbor hung Christmas lights, children running with manic energy unique to December afternoons, normal families doing normal things. No one stranded, no one waiting for a servant who would never arrive. 4:15 p.m. My phone rang nonstop. Isabella, then the unknown number, then Isabella again. The buzzing became a constant drone, like a wasp trapped under glass. I walked to the kitchen and unplugged the landline. Then I switched off my cell phone entirely. Perfect silence. I made myself a grilled cheese and heated a can of tomato soup. Comfort food I hadn't allowed myself for months, every grocery dollar having gone to make ends meet while subsidizing their lifestyle. The cheese melted golden, the soup steamed in my favorite mug. Outside, the winter sun began to dip, casting long shadows across the yard. Somewhere across town, 3 people were probably stranded in an airport garage, debating taxi fare, wondering how their personal servant could abandon them. The thought made my soup taste even better. By 5 p.m., I had eaten, loaded the dishwasher, and contemplated a movie. Years had passed since I'd had an entire evening without scrambling for last-minute favors or money. I reached for the remote when pounding erupted at the front door, not knocking, pounding, the kind that rattled the frame, announcing pure fury. I set down my tea and approached slowly, already knowing who waited outside. The pounding intensified. Through the peephole, 3 figures crowded on the porch like wolves circling prey. I opened the door to Cody Jenkins, red-faced and inches from mine. "What the hell is wrong with you?" he shouted, barging in. Catherine followed, her flawless hair disheveled, lips pressed into a line of hatred. "This behavior is unacceptable for someone your age, Dennis. Absolutely barbaric." Isabella brought up the rear, her designer coat wrinkled, makeup smeared. "You humiliated us. Do you know what you've done? My parents had to take a $40 taxi because of your decisions." I cut through their tirade with a calm steel. They paused, stunned. "Excuse me." Cody's face flushed purple. "You don't get to dictate here, buddy. Not after today." "This is my house," I said quietly, "and I want you out." Catherine stepped forward, voice laced with condescension perfected over decades. "Dennis, you clearly don't understand the gravity of your mistake. My husband has connections all over this city, business connections, social connections. You can't treat people like us this way and expect." I interrupted, meeting her glare steadily. "This was a lesson for you, a lesson about your arrogance and the way you mistreat those you consider beneath you." Isabella's jaw dropped. "A lesson? Who do you think you are to teach anyone anything? You're nobody." "I'm someone who finally stopped being your personal ATM and chauffeur," I replied, stepping aside to hold the door wider. "The lesson is over. You can leave." Cody jabbed a finger at my chest, but didn't touch me. "You have no idea who you're messing with, old man. I've been in this town longer than you've been breathing its air. I know people, important people, people who could make your life hell." "Is that a threat, Mr. Jenkins?" I asked calmly. It's a promise, he muttered, voice dropping to a menacing whisper. You think abandoning elderly people at an airport comes without consequences? You're about to learn just how wrong you are. Catherine nodded, her smile sharp enough to cut glass. Indeed, actions have consequences, Dennis, and yours will be very public. Isabella tugged on her father's arm. Daddy, let's go. This pathetic old man isn't worth our time. They filed out like a defeated army, but Cody paused at the threshold. You'll regret this, he spat. I guarantee it. I closed the door, the deadbolt clicking with satisfaction. Through the window I watched them pile into their rental car, still arguing, driving off into the December darkness. The house felt cleaner, as if their presence had left a residue now lifted. Yet their parting words echoed in the quiet. Public consequences, important connections. I returned to the living room, tea still warm in my mug. For the first time, I felt something like concern, but it was overtaken by something stronger, anticipation. 3 days later, I sipped my morning coffee, scanning the Spokane Review, when I saw my own face on page 3. The headline read, Spokane businessman abandons elderly couple at airport during holiday storm. My hands froze around the mug. There I was, in black and white, an old company photo, probably 5 years out of date. Below it, a story that chilled me and sparked a simmering anger. Cody and Catherine Jenkins, visiting their daughter for Christmas, were left stranded at Spokane International Airport for over 4 hours Sunday when family member Dennis Flores failed to appear for a prearranged pickup. The couple, both in their late 50s, endured frigid temperatures while a winter storm warning was allegedly in effect. We couldn't believe someone would abandon us like that, said Cody, retired banking executive. We called repeatedly. Mr. Flores never answered. We were forced to take an expensive taxi in dangerous weather. The article went on, quoting concerns about my erratic behavior and mental state. Cody painted himself and Catherine as helpless victims, and me as a cruel old man who snapped without cause. No mention of the Christmas dinner rejection, no context about Isabella's demands or years of financial exploitation. Just me, the villain, abandoning poor tourists during a storm that existed only in Cody's imagination. I sat with my coffee, reading the piece again and again. The byline read Patricia Morrison, lifestyle editor. I didn't know her, but I recognized the tactic. Cody had used his banking connections to place a story designed to inflict maximum damage. Clever. Very clever. For the first time since this ordeal began, I felt grudging respect for my opponents. They were not spoiled, trust fund brats throwing tantrums. They were strategic, calculating. In a small city like Spokane, reputation meant everything. One well-placed article could erase decades of effort. They declared total war. I folded the newspaper carefully, mind already shifting into planning mode, the same methodical thinking that had built my business from scratch. This wasn't about airport pickups anymore, nor Christmas dinner or mortgage payments. This was about victory. I opened my laptop and began researching names. Cody Jenkins, Catherine Jenkins, Isabella Flores, their social media profiles, connections, habits, weaknesses, all publicly visible over the years. If they wanted a game of chess, I'd show them what a true strategist looked like. I glanced at my wall calendar, December 18th, 7 days until Christmas. 7 days to plan something unforgettable. The next 3 days I existed in a different reality. Not Dennis Flores, the worn-down old man, allowing family to walk over him. This was Dennis Flores, businessman, strategist, someone who built something from nothing and wouldn't let entitled parasites destroy 40 years of work. My laptop became command central. Social media tabs multiplied like cards in a high-stakes game. Cody Jenkins, retired First National Bank manager, Spokane Country Club member, treasurer of Inland Northwest Business Leaders Association, a man with a career of trust and influence, and much to lose. Catherine's Instagram projected refined living, charity luncheons, wine tastings, vacations tagged as blissful life, carefully curated comments praising her sophistication, all built on other people's money, including mine. Isabella's Facebook told the real story. Posts flaunting their beautiful home, complete with photos of the kitchen I had paid for, check-ins at upscale restaurants during months I had footed their utility bills. A status update just last week. So excited for Christmas dinner with family. Can't wait to show off our hosting skills. Our hosting skills, our home, our wealth. The narcissism was staggering, but it was Michael's LinkedIn profile that gave me the final clue I needed. A recent connection, Patricia Morrison, lifestyle editor at the Spokane Review, the same Patricia Morrison who had penned that scathing article about me. I leaned back in my chair, taking in the evidence on my screen. These people had made 3 critical mistakes. First, they had completely underestimated me. Second, by going public with their attack, they had opened the door for a public response. Third, they had documented their entire privileged existence online, creating a perfect record of hypocrisy. I navigated to Patricia Morrison's profile, 43 years old, journalism degree from WSU, 15 years at local papers, no experience in banking or finance. Cody had reached out cold, likely through a business contact. A quick check of local business directories confirmed my hunch. 3 mutual connections between Cody and Patricia's editor. The story hadn't appeared by chance. It had been strategically planted. Amateur hour. I opened a new document and began typing. Not a response to their media attack, but something better. A timeline. 5 years of financial support documented with bank statements, receipts, and canceled checks. The down payment on their house, $47,000 from my home equity loan. The kitchen remodel, when Isabella demanded granite countertops, $18,000 on my credit card. 60 monthly mortgage payments of $2,800 each, $168,000, not counting down payments, utilities, or additional expenses. $250,000, more than I had spent on myself in a decade. My phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number, probably Isabella testing a new tactic. I ignored it and continued. By evening, the evidence was compiled into a manila folder thick enough to choke a horse. Bank statements, receipts, photos from their social media flaunting purchases I had financed, a printed copy of the newspaper article annotated with my notes exposing every falsehood. I glanced at my wall calendar. December 24th, circled in red. Not for Christmas, but for justice. According to Isabella's Facebook, they were hosting Christmas dinner for 12. Family, friends, neighbors, and their social circle, the same people who read the Spokane Review and formed opinions based on it, people who deserve the truth. I closed my laptop and retrieved my good camera from the kitchen, the one I had used years ago to document construction projects. Time to use it for something entirely different. Tomorrow was Christmas Eve. Tomorrow, Cody Jenkins and his family would discover what happens when you wage war on someone who actually knows how to fight. Christmas Eve morning dawned gray and cold, a Spokane winter day that made warm homes and family gatherings a gift. Too bad I wasn't welcome at either. But I had other plans. I laid out my evidence like a lawyer preparing for trial. Bank statements organized by year, each monthly payment highlighted, receipts arranged chronologically showing the pattern of my support, printed photos from social media, Isabella's jewelry, vacations, and lavish Christmas decorations. All 12 copies, one for each dinner guest. The newspaper article topped each stack, red pen notes visible in the margins. Lie beside Cody's quote about dangerous weather. False. Context missing from claims about my erratic behavior highlighted the 5 years of financial support they ignored. I dressed carefully in my best Navy suit, the one I had worn to Maria's funeral, pressed and ready for a different kind of farewell. Today, I would say goodbye to the man who had let his family walk all over him. Tonight, I would command respect. At 6:30 p.m., I packed a briefcase with evidence and drove to Kendall Yards. Their house glowed warmly, driveways filled with cars. Through the front windows, I saw figures moving in the dining room, Isabella playing hostess in the home my money had purchased. I parked across the street and checked my watch, 6:45. Perfect timing. Late enough that everyone was seated, early enough to catch the main course. No one could escape. The front door was unlocked, of course. Isabella loved to flaunt how safe their neighborhood was, how security wasn't a concern, unlike in real neighborhoods. I entered quietly, warm air and laughter greeting me. Catherine's voice. "But darling, that's not how we do things in our family," followed by more laughter. Our family, after everything they had done to exclude me. I stepped into the dining room carrying my briefcase. 12 faces turned, surprise, horror, disbelief. Isabella froze mid-wine sip. Michael went pale. Cody and Catherine looked like ghosts. "Good evening, everyone," I said calmly, setting my briefcase on the marble sideboard. I hope you don't mind me joining your Christmas celebration. Isabella spoke first. Dennis, this is completely inappropriate. You need to leave immediately. Actually, I said, opening my briefcase and pulling out the first stack of papers, I think your guests deserve to know who really paid for this dinner, this house, and the lifestyle you've been flaunting. A woman I didn't recognize, likely one of Catherine's charity acquaintances, leaned forward with curiosity. What is he talking about? Whispered Isabella. He's having some kind of episode. Michael, call someone. But I was already moving around the table, placing a packet of documents in front of each guest. Here are the bank records, I said calmly. 5 years of financial support, $168,000 in mortgage payments alone, plus the down payment, renovations, furniture, appliances, everything around you. The room fell silent, the only sound the rustling of papers as 12 people examined the evidence. Faces shifted as they absorbed the numbers, the dates, the undeniable proof of my generosity and their deception. This is, one man began, then stopped, staring at a bank statement. Outrageous, a woman across the table finished. Isabella, why didn't you tell us any of this? Someone asked. Isabella's composure cracked. It's more complicated than it seems. Dennis volunteered to help. We never asked for this. Actually, I interrupted, producing the newspaper article, let's discuss what you did ask for and what you told the media about me. The room's temperature seemed to drop 10 degrees. I laid copies of the article on the table. Guests recognized my face from the unflattering story published 3 days earlier. Now, I said, voice clear and steady, let's discuss the real manipulators in this family. Cody's face went from red to ashen. Catherine sat rigid, wine glass forgotten. Mr. Jenkins used his banking connections to plant this story, I continued, tapping the newspaper. Notice how I'm portrayed as unstable and dangerous, abandoning poor elderly people in freezing weather. A gray-haired man in an expensive sweater looked up from the article. Cody, what is this about? He asked. The weather was 52 degrees and sunny, I replied before Cody could speak. They weren't stranded tourists. They were Isabella's parents, coming to the Christmas dinner I was banned from because I wasn't deemed worthy of their company. Catherine finally spoke. That's not. We never said. You never said what? I interrupted, pulling out my phone with screenshots of Isabella's social media posts. Proof that I was supposedly too low class for her parents, that my Mexican cooking and working class conversation would embarrass them in front of their educated friends. A woman I identified as one of Catherine's charity acquaintances shifted uncomfortably. Catherine, surely you didn't. He's twisting everything, Cody blustered, voice lacking conviction. This man has serious mental health issues. Stress, aging, financial problems. Financial problems, I almost laughed. Mr. Jenkins, I have been supporting your daughter and son-in-law nearly $3,000 a month for 5 years. The only financial problems here are the ones you are about to face. I turned to address the entire table. These people have taken $200,000 from me while insulting me behind my back. They've manipulated my son against me, banned me from family gatherings, and when I finally stood up for myself, tried to destroy my reputation in the newspaper. Michael spoke for the first time, whispering, Dad, I didn't know about the newspaper. Your wife knew, I said quietly, and her parents orchestrated it. They made me the villain for refusing to be their personal ATM and chauffeur. The social dynamic shifted like tectonic plates. Guests' expressions revealed the slow realization. Everything they had been told about tonight's hosts was built on lies. This is unconscionable, an elderly woman in pearls muttered, staring at the bank statements. Cody, how could you let your daughter exploit this man's generosity and then attack him publicly when he refused? You don't understand the full situation, Cody protested. I understand perfectly, she interrupted. This man has supported your family financially while you treated him like hired help, and when he said no, you tried to ruin his reputation. Catherine's voice strangled. He abandoned us at the airport after you told me I wasn't welcome at Christmas dinner because my presence was inappropriate for your parents. After 5 years of paying your bills while you looked down on me for my ethnicity and education level, I said calmly. Silence fell. 12 faces fixed on Cody and Catherine, expressions ranging from disgust to embarrassment for having associated with them. Isabella made a final attempt at control. Everyone, please. This is a family matter that's gotten out of hand. No, I said firmly. This stopped being a family matter when you made it public. When you used the newspaper to attack my character. When my reputation became collateral damage for your pride. I looked around the table at faces I didn't know, but who now understood exactly who I was. I wanted you all to know the truth before you read about Dennis Flores in the paper again. And you will read about me again, but next time it will be the real story. I closed my briefcase, straightened my tie, and said, "Enjoy the rest of your dinner. It's the last one I'll be paying for." As I walked toward the door, I heard the eruption behind me, voices raised in accusation, questions demanding answers, the sound of a carefully constructed social facade collapsing. It was, without a doubt, the most beautiful Christmas music I'd ever heard. The letter arrived on a Tuesday morning in March, sent by certified mail, its weight heavy with legal consequences. I signed for it at my front door, noticing how the spring air smelled of growth and possibility instead of the winter desperation that had haunted those December days. Notice of default, the envelope read. Final demand for payment. Inside, 3 months of missed mortgage payments had hit Michael and Isabella like a tsunami of reality. $8,400 in arrears, with 14 days to bring the account current or face foreclosure on the house I had helped them buy. I set the letter aside and returned to my coffee, reading it like news about distant weather. Interesting, but no longer my problem. My phone had been ringing for weeks with increasingly desperate calls, Isabella's number blocked after the first hysterical voicemail. Cody and Catherine, whose social standing in Spokane had evaporated like morning mist after their Christmas dinner humiliation. Even Michael, whose calls I had been ignoring out of anger and curiosity. How long would it take him to swallow his pride? Apparently, 97 days. He knocked on my door that Thursday evening. Gone was the confident man who had excluded me from Christmas dinner. In his place was someone who looked 10 years older in 3 months. Dark circles under his eyes, wrinkled suit, desperation clinging like cheap cologne. "Dad," he said when I opened the door, "we need to talk." I stepped aside, noting how he looked around my home as if seeing it for the first time. The new furniture bought with my first mortgage-free paycheck. The freshly painted walls I hadn't updated in 8 years because every spare dollar had gone to their lifestyle. The repairs I could finally afford now that I wasn't subsidizing someone else's American dream. "Nice place," he said quietly. "It's what happens when you spend money on yourself instead of people who don't," I replied. "Appreciate it," he murmured, perching uneasily on my couch. "Dad, I need you to know how sorry I am about everything. Christmas dinner, the newspaper article, the way Isabella, the way we treated you." "Go on," I said. "I didn't know about Cody planting that story. I swear I didn't. When I found out," he ran his hands through his hair. "Jesus, Dad. The things they said about you behind your back, the way they talked about our family, about Mom's memory." My jaw tightened at the mention of Maria, but my voice remained steady. "And exactly what did they say about your mother? That she knew her place better than you knew yours. That she understood boundaries." They couldn't meet my eyes. "I should have defended you. I should have stood up to them years ago." "Yes," I said simply. "You should have." We sat in silence, the weight of 5 years of mistakes filling the space. Outside, normal Thursday evening sounds played in the neighborhood. Lawnmowers, distant traffic. Sons didn't exclude fathers from Christmas dinner. "The house is in foreclosure," Michael said finally. "I know. We can't make the payments without," he paused. "Without your help. Without the money I was sending every month while you let your wife's family treat me like garbage," I finished. "I know how it looks, Dad," he said miserably. "Do you know how much I sent you over 5 years? I leaned forward, locking eyes with him. He nodded. "Isabella calculated it after Christmas. Mortgage payments, down payment, everything else. Over $200,000. 237,468, I corrected. "I know the exact amount because I finally did something I should have done years ago." His face crumpled. "Dad, I'm so sorry. I don't know how to fix this." "You can't fix it, son. That money is gone. But more importantly, those years are gone. 5 years I could have been building a relationship with you instead of funding your wife's fantasy life." I know now." He looked at me with something that might have been hope. Maybe We could start over. Are you asking me to resume the mortgage payments? The hope in his eye, everything, Dad. The house, Isabella's respect, her parents' approval. I don't know what I'll do. You'll figure it out, I said calmly. The same way I figured out how to live without a son who respected me. The same way I learned to spend Christmas alone while you celebrated with people who thought I was beneath them. He began to cry quietly, a man out of options. I lost you, didn't I? I chose them over you, and now I've lost you forever. This man I raised, loved, and sacrificed for, who let his wife's family convince him his father wasn't good enough. Michael, you didn't lose me. You gave me away. There's a difference. He wiped his eyes. Is there any chance, any way you could forgive me? I forgave you months ago, I said firmly, and meant it. But forgiveness doesn't mean going back to the way things were. It doesn't mean pretending this didn't happen, or resuming payments for a lifestyle that came with the condition I'd be grateful for scraps of your attention. Then what does it mean? I walked to the mantel, where Maria's photo sat beside a new picture, me with Rosa and her family at Easter dinner, the first holiday I spent with people who actually wanted me there. It means if you want a relationship with me, you'll have to build it from scratch. Show me respect instead of demanding I earn it. Make choices based on what's right, not convenient. And the next time someone, your wife, her parents, anyone, tries to exclude me from family gatherings, you'll remember who actually acts like family. He nodded slowly, understanding for the first time that respect isn't taken, it's earned. The house, he asked quietly, isn't my problem anymore. I sat back, feeling lighter than I had in years. You're a grown man, Michael. Figure it out like grown men do. Get a job that covers your bills. Sell the house. Buy something you can afford. Stop living beyond your means and expecting others to subsidize your choices. He stood slowly, shoulders straightening for the first time since he arrived. You're right about all of it. I know. He walked to the door, then turned back. Dad, for what it's worth, seeing you stand up for yourself at Christmas dinner, I was proud of you. Embarrassed and angry, but proud too. Good, I said. Maybe there's hope for you yet. After he left, I poured myself a glass of the good whiskey and stepped onto my back porch. Spring was coming to Spokane, the trees beginning to bud, the air warming with promise. In 4 months, I'd be 63. Maria had been gone for 8 years. I'd wasted 5 of those years being a doormat for people who didn't appreciate sacrifice. I wasn't planning to waste any more. My phone buzzed with a text from Rosa. Dinner Sunday. The kids want to show you their school projects. I smiled and typed back, wouldn't miss it. Real family, it turned out, was something you found with people who actually wanted you there. Everything else was just expensive theater, and I was done buying tickets to shows where I wasn't welcome on stage. The whiskey tasted like freedom, and the future looked exactly as bright as I was willing to make it.